right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our earnings coverage for Apple today and some other ones, Intel and Visa as well. Peter, how are you doing today, my friend? How has your day been?
Been a very busy day. This market has been exciting. There's just lots going on in the world, let alone all the stuff I got outside of the market. So, yeah, this should be interesting. I have no idea what to expect here
Yeah.
after hours, but we'll talk about that in depth. We'll get going here and figure out what's going to happen, or at least get ourselves ready for it, whatever might happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it, man. This is going to be an exciting one. Apple is always lots of fun on earnings, and can't wait to see that. So we'll be talking about, Jared will be joining us later with some expected moves before we get to earnings. I mean, we're going to cover a whole slew of things. Some of the key things that's been happening with Apple, from issues with China and iPhone sales and all this stuff. We'll look at all of that. And then once the earning comes out, we'll try. I personally won't try to get trades, but I know Brian will try to look for some trades. Peter, you once in a while take a couple of trades during earnings. I seen you do that.
Occasionally,
Yeah, yeah.
I usually,
I
funny,
see you
the thing I
dabble.
usually trade on earnings is just AMD, my good buddy. But we'll see. Maybe Apple, I just think is going to be interesting today. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I think it'll be a lot of fun, so we'll definitely check it out. At the moment, let's take a quick look at the market as we kind of wait for everyone to kind of gather up here and get going. Overall market, man, today it's been was pretty sideways for the most part. In the last 2 hours or so, we've kind of seen a beautiful upwards trend. So the market pushing higher here. If you look at the daily, it's kind of breaking out of this area that it was stuck in when it had the big gap down here. So looking very positive leading into this market close, looking to close out the day green. And let's see if Apple is going to help that. So right now looking really nice as far as that goes. And if we look at Apple at the moment, heading into earnings, pretty much flat. I mean, here's our previous day close. If you could see it right over here, pretty much flat. Really not a whole lot of action at the moment. It's been up, it's been down. But again, big moment coming up for Apple as we get into earnings. So Peter, we'll start with you. I know you have some information on Apple, but man, I've been, I always keep the news in the background, and everything on the news today has been about this unfortunate crash. Right? They talk a little bit of market, but everything has been back to Washington D.C. and what has happened here. And man, it's just so unfortunate. Trump went live and spoke about it as well earlier today. And it's been definitely a major topic across all news, including market news as well. So, Peter, what do we have for Apple? What are some of the things that are key that have been driving some of the movement on the Apple price?
Yeah, well, there's lots going on. Like we were talking yesterday about some of the earnings there. Once again, today we've got Apple that is very much in the news. You don't often get this many moving parts coming into an earnings season. So let's start with the big headline. This earnings season is the first time in a while that Apple comes in as the market heavyweight. So Apple has regained its position as the biggest publicly traded company in the world. $3.6 trillion is its current valuation. And that's only because, of course, NVIDIA, well, it's actually a combination of NVIDIA having dropped, as we know, earlier this week quite significantly, to put it just under the $3 trillion mark, sitting at 2.99 trillion. And then, of course, Microsoft, which is number two, at just over about 3.1, I'll round up here, trillion for Microsoft. So Apple, far and away the biggest publicly traded company on the planet. And it's actually seen a rise over the last couple of days where it's been bucking the trend a little bit, where it was hitting a low earlier about a week ago, and then it's been sort of bouncing back up a little bit. So, so from a price perspective, it's in an interesting space where it can actually move in either direction. Now, that being said, let's talk about the news that comes in behind where we're going to go and what the expected move might be. A couple of very interesting things. Obviously, the previous headline news had really been all about the fact that their sales were lagging in China. China was seen as a market where they had lots of growth opportunity, and they have fallen behind other phone manufacturers in terms of the number of handsets or number of devices sold in the Chinese market. So, I mean, they still have a number two position, but they are no longer number one, and sales obviously are disappointing. Global sales in their latest iPhone version also were behind expectations, which led to earlier reported reductions in their production capacity. So all of that, provided some headwinds that caused some concern. And then this week, of course, we all know we've been talking nonstop about AI. And AI has been an interesting topic for Apple because Apple has sort of been uh, a laggard in this space, right? Like everybody would expect Apple is one of, well, the biggest tech, the biggest company on the planet to sort of be leading AI, but they really haven't. It's not that they're not in the picture, they absolutely are, but they really haven't been sort of out front promoting their AI offerings, really being in front of that, being the first to integrate them into their phones and into their services. That was really seen as a negative until this week. Because this week, of course, as we know, DeepSeek Monday suddenly hit the airwaves that this tool out of China is coming out with significant cost savings over I'll say traditional traditional. I mean, how AI's only been around for a couple of years, but the ones that we're currently focusing on compared to current tools, DeepSeek is suddenly significantly cheaper. And as one analyst said, and I'll sort of echo their sentiments, it's fascinating to me that here we are on a Thursday, and from Monday to Thursday, we've already gone through all 5 stages of grief. So, if you know what those are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And it feels like on the Chinese AI picture, we've gone through that entire gamut of emotion. So now we're in the acceptance phase where the analysts are starting to say, well, this might actually benefit Apple. Being that they're a little late out the gate, they have the opportunity to integrate cheaper and more effective tools into their platforms as opposed to some of their competitors, which have invested very heavily in other tools that may be sub-optimized. Very interestingly, we said, like, this is not our first earnings rodeo this week. We had one just yesterday. And the CEOs of both Microsoft and Meta both came out. So Zuckerberg and I can't even remember who's the CEO of Microsoft right now. Anyways, CEO of Microsoft. Both came out and were saying, what's that?
I forgot his name. We should know this.
I know. I can't
Yeah.
remember for the life of me. Anyways, I'm sure someone will put it in the comments there. You guys let me know. But anyways, they both stated in the earnings calls that they actually think the Chinese tools may be benefit to them. Really, this just helps improve the industry overall, right? Going through the stages of grief. This is them putting a spin on it and say, it's Zuckerberg specifically was just saying this is just the ebb and flow of the market. You expect when you've got new capability development, you're going to get people that leapfrog other capability, and then you sort of pick it up and come up behind it. So we'll see what all that means. I mean, really, it makes an interesting picture for Apple where we don't know where it's going to go. Especially, my God, as I just turn around, look at the market. We're tanking. What's happening? Everything is tumbling right now. If we look at close, maybe a 5-minute look at that, the market is just heading down right now. So anyway, sorry, caught me by surprise. Apple down $10 in the last 5 minutes here. So all right, everything's dropping as we're getting closer, 20 minutes away from the closing bell, and actually we're about an hour away from Apple's earnings because they don't come out until 4:30 today. So 50 minutes away from their earnings. So anyways, but an interesting picture for Apple, right? Like, really, the backstop for this is quite complex. It really means that their current quarterly earnings are not really going to be very impactful in the direction the stock goes. It's going to be all about the commentary. It's going to be, of course, about their forecast, right? What their forward-looking guidance is. That's usually where we focus, but I think even more so with Apple today. Anyways, that being said, I should let you know the numbers that we're looking at here. Expected revenue for this quarter on Apple is sitting at $124.1 billion, with an expected earnings per share of about $2.36. So those are the numbers that we're measuring against. That's the aggregate analysts' expectations, and we'll sort of see how Apple performs against those expectations. Once again, the Apple earnings coming out at 4:30 today. I think I'll just mention in passing, Carlos, while Apple is the big boy in the street, we do have a couple of other earnings. Intel is coming out as is Visa. Those are coming out a little earlier. Intel should be right at 4 o'clock. Visa will be at 4:05. So we'll take a peek at those because we have time before Apple comes out. And as one last aside, it was interesting on the Intel front that there was an interview with the CEO of TSM, which, of course, as we know, is the world's largest chip manufacturer. And they were sort of giving some insight as to why Apple picked them as their key supplier 15 years ago. 2011 is when a big decision was made, and Apple actually moved away from Intel to TSM to manufacture their chips. And they cited the fact that it was basically Intel's inflexibility and their inability to meet Apple's demands. And if you remember, that makes sense to me, right? Intel was sort of the big dog on the street at the time. They sort of had probably a lot of influence, and they thought they could dictate what their customers wanted and have their customers, meet their requirements. Apple's never felt that way, right? Apple is happily going to require a manufacturer to meet their specific requirements. And Intel just said, basically, we're not willing to do that. So Apple said, okay, we're moving on. And you can picture 14, 15 years ago when these decisions were being made. Well, Apple wasn't the massive, producer of handsets that they are now. So they certainly have taken off. So that certainly was not a good decision on Intel's part. So interesting that just comes out on the eve of Intel's earnings. But anyways, that's just related news tying those two companies together today. All right, we should talk about what the expected move is, because that helps us understand, how far is Apple likely to move? What is the market saying that Apple is likely to move from its current price, which, as I said, actually just dropped about $10 from where it was sitting just 20 minutes ago, now sitting at $238. So have we got Jared out there to give us that insight?
Yes, we do. So Jared's coming on here, and he's going to give us that insight to kind of see what's happening there, and maybe we can go through INTC and Intel and Visa too, since we have a little bit of time. But we'll let Jared do his thing. Hey, Jared, welcome, man. Good afternoon.
Hey, welcome. Good afternoon to everybody. Thanks so much, Peter, and thanks, Carlos. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into Apple expected move here. Not too much in terms of price volatility. Apple is currently sitting at about 238 to 240 a share. Peter keeps mentioning a $10 drop. I think his candle math is a little off there. But overall, we're seeing a little bit of a drop in the markets. I think the SPY is hitting some key FOMC and gap fill type levels. So kind of the normal day-to-day work that we always see.
You're right, Jared. Apparently, I'm an order of magnitude off. That's a $1 drop.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I told you it's been a long day. That's my bad. Thanks.
It's fine.
Thanks for correcting.
We see numbers how we want to see them, right? It's all relative math. So with Apple's closing price kind of being a bit undetermined, the expected move for the earnings is still going to be close to about $10. And if you recall from yesterday, when we're looking at expected move, we're taking a glance into the option market. We're taking a read on the implied volatility. And this platform is really kind. It generates that number for me automatically. One thing I didn't mention yesterday was there's kind of an easy way to calculate this number. It's kind of a rough way to get the value if the platform doesn't show you automatically. And that is to go to an at the money straddle. So you're basically buying a call and a put at the same time. The cost of that straddle is going to be approximately the expected move. And as you can see, that's about 9.37, 9.8 at the top here in the option series. And as we move into the chart, just like we did yesterday with Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla, we're just going to take the closing price of Apple, and we're going to roughly, calculate what an upper move and a lower move of $10 would be. Now, Apple finds itself in a kind of interesting technical position because unlike Microsoft, which those are technically still the two largest companies in the S&P, and NVIDIA unfortunately lost too much market cap recently to kind of keep that crown going. But Microsoft was finding itself higher on the year. Apple right now is down on the year. So even though we've had this nice sort of bottoming action in the short term, the year-to-date open was somewhere around 249. And if we put the expected move $10 higher, that would return Apple to flat on the year. So, theoretically, if we've been buying Apple or short selling Apple, it's been because of the year-to-date open being at a higher price. And that's kind of an interesting demarcation line for the year as to whether or not Apple will go green this year or stay red. There's also a bit of a couple gaps up there as we started to reverse off of the all-time high. So that would be our bullish case, really just bringing Apple back to 250 and hoping that it can sustain that altitude. If we see a $10 move to the downside, that would bring us closer to about 229 to 228. It would really just kind of put us back to where we were a few days ago when we started to see the rally come from this lower boundary that we currently find ourselves in. So not too bad of a volatility range. I think like Microsoft, which came out with earnings yesterday and obviously has different metrics behind the company, the potential for these particular names to meet their expected move is much higher simply because the volatility is lower. So Microsoft only pricing about a 5% move total as far as the upper or lower boundary. It was much easier to achieve those price targets. And with Apple only pricing about a $10 move, that is approximately 4%. 4% not being that critical in regards to some of our other stocks that we track and the volatility that they experience. So that's Apple in a nutshell. And I know we mentioned maybe two more additional ones. I'll just go through these really quickly. We have Visa, which is currently experiencing new all-time highs as of today. This has been kind of a monster tech stock and, kind of correlated to the financial grouping stocks, but I always think of Visa as more tech related. Plus or minus 10 expected move. Keep in mind, though, that Visa's share price is much higher. So this implies a lower volatility. So same price movement priced into the options, but lower volatility overall, just because of the share price of Visa. And obviously, if we're looking to close anywhere near 340, that's a 330 downside move and about a 350 upside move with a pretty extended technical chart so far, but really nice breakouts over the past couple of weeks. And last but not least, Intel, skirting the bottom of the barrel as far as technicals are concerned. Really been, seeing a lot of downside over the past couple of years, but as always, earnings is one of those cases where things can start to turn around, even if it is temporary. Plus or minus 2.1 expected move. And given that the stock is only a $20 stock, that's actually a much higher volatility than the last two that we just discussed. So in this case, Intel is really elevated in its volatility. You'll notice the implied volatility here is much higher than something like Visa with about a 71% IV and Apple with about a 98% IV. Those are just relative to the asset. Intel is pricing a very high move as far as percentages. So even though $2.1 is not very far from a technical perspective, percentage-wise, it's quite large. And that would basically put it back to some of these local resistances. And if we do see some downside, most of our earnings on Intel have been pretty dramatic. Our last earnings was a rally, but obviously that has turned into almost a seller versus a buyer. So some people are still expecting Intel to drop further in price, and a $2.50 move or a two-ish dollar move should be about 18 per share. So definitely some things to look for. Boundaries are nice as always as traders, and as we saw from last earnings, Microsoft Meta, and Tesla, those boundaries were really nice to have as targets. Unfortunately, the only one that hit the target was Microsoft. So the other two actually didn't quite hit their expected move boundaries. So it's still nice to have targets in mind, and obviously we're hoping for a bit more volatility coming up soon. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. We got Brian on. Good afternoon, Brian. I see you're on there as well with us. Glad to have you as we get ready for a
Yep, good
couple of
afternoon.
earnings. Yeah, coming up today. So yeah, let's take a look at Apple. Let's look at
Right.
Jared. You mentioned something pretty interesting here about the start of this year, right? And which is again, we're red for the year or coming up to a break even here because we started the year right at the end of December. This is the weekly chart, by the way. I'm showing you here with right away with a drop, right? We had this nice sell-off into Apple here. This was, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, part of this was the Chinese, losing their number one spot, reducing the sales of iPhones. So all that stuff kind of made this drop here a little more significant. No news from them on AI, like nothing significant like we see from NVIDIA, Meta, and everybody else. So this drop just kept coming. And in the last week or so, look how great this move has been. So recovering a lot of the drop that's been happening there. So this earnings is going to be very interesting to see. Hey, are we going to get some momentum towards the upside, or are we going to continue on this new lower trend? But for all last year, man, they still had an amazing year. They didn't have an Nvidia year. They didn't have a Meta year or a Netflix year, right? I mean, if you look at let's just look at Meta. I mean, we have to now that I brought it up. If we look at Meta for last year, I mean, this is unheard of. It's just wild. What is this? 356 over to around 625. I mean, that is incredible. And of course, Nvidia is another ridiculous chart that starts off at a 50
Oh,
and
yes.
goes to, 151. It's just insane. So, but nevertheless, Apple's still having a great 2024, and we'll see how this year continues. I know in tech, we've been hearing a lot of analysts saying, "Hey, you know what, Peter? We're not going to have a double-digit gain year." But some of these tech companies are
Oh.
proving. I know it's very early on, but they're proving otherwise with all this IT and AI situation. Peter, you're celebrating a trade. Talk to me about it.
We
can
are
tell.
traders first and foremost here in the room. I've got a signature trade that happens exactly 10 minutes to the close every day. So I'm currently long AMD on my signature 1 to 10 trade. Took it at 118. Oh, baby. All the way up to VWAP, taking another partial here. So took this trade with about a 15-cent risk. Now I'm good, 60 cents to the good. So that's a good 4 times return on this so far. So beautiful.
Awesome, man. Awesome.
Very
Guys,
nice.
Plan comes together. And how could I
Yeah.
forget, by the way, that the CEO of Apple is Tim Cook. So
Chip hat.
no, you didn't have. That's not the one you forgot, Peter. You had a long day. You forgot the guy from Microsoft, which still don't know who he is.
oh yeah,
Yeah, no, we know Tim Cook. We know him. It's
yeah.
the Microsoft CEO. We
Oh,
don't
yeah, with
hear
Microsoft.
much from him. He doesn't come out with
Yeah,
leather jackets
I couldn't even remember
often.
which company. I forgot.
You had a
Who's the
long day,
CEO
man.
of Microsoft?
Peter's been on for a long time today, so we
Satya
appreciate you.
Nadella. Oh yeah, I recognize
Yeah.
this guy. I remember seeing him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Satya Nadella.
There you go. Nice trade there, Peter.
Thank
I
you,
was
sir.
listening to Sean in the trading room, and he had taken a short trade on SPY just when it started to sell off there. I think he got like a 10-hour trade or something on that one, which was again something that you can see get more information of if you're part of our community.
Beautiful.
So yeah, a couple of nice examples of some trades today. I see Nvidia has actually gone green on the day. That's interesting.
Yeah, Nvidia. Yeah, big
So
move here for Nvidia going green.
yeah,
And
it started to rally around noon or just
Yeah.
after.
Yeah.
Yep.
10 minutes to the
Nice.
close, baby. That's when you see it happen. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this earnings. Again, I don't know what Apple's going to bring. It's unfortunately their earnings are later than I had hoped. It'd be better if they were at 4:05 because that keeps everybody engaged and more players in the earnings. But we'll see.
yeah, Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I really prefer the 405 announcements, and as we saw yesterday, Microsoft kind of started moving right after the close. It didn't even require that extra 5 minutes to get the trade going. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Intel should give us some kick right off the bat. They're supposed to be announcing right at 4 o'clock. We'll see. Usually, those ones that announce right at 4, yeah, they can be sketchy as to whether they actually come out right at 4 or a minute or two later. But
mhm.
we should see it. And Visa, I want to temper expectations on that. It is an earnings play, but typically their earnings volume, at least from what I've seen in the past, is very low. So
Yeah, yeah.
we may not get much of a tradable
They're
move on that
not
at all.
a great trading ticker, that's for sure. Peter, you did
Some
mention. Go ahead, Jared.
some things to think about too, even if we
Mm-hmm.
aren't directly trading Visa, we can often look at MasterCard as a sympathy play. And I believe their earnings are
Yep.
either, uh, I don't remember when their
They
earnings,
were this
actually their
morning, I
earnings already
think.
came out.
Oh,
This morning, right?
yeah, their
This
earnings
morning.
came out
Yeah.
this morning.
Yeah. So we can kind of look to MasterCard as maybe like a bellwether of whether or not Visa will have a decent move to the upside or not. Looks like their earnings came out and reaction was somewhat bullish. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Couple other interesting things to note here today. Google is breaking out. I think this is all-time high on Google, just over 200 now.
Google. Let's take a look
So
here.
Yeah. If we can close up there, it'd be the highest close.
yeah,
We've got a couple spike highs
Oh yeah,
up
look
in
at
that
that.
range.
yeah,
Yep. Yep.
yeah. It looks like it's trying to break out here.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
looking nice. Man, we had a turn in events here. Things looked a little bit choppy, and everything is just heading northeast right now. So it's pretty nice.
Wow. Okay,
Um,
hello. Had a
oh,
nice
let's see
day.
how that's doing. Okay. Oh, oh.
If I can paraphrase Paris in our chat room, I love you, AMD.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
this up
Yep.
above
Pita,
VWAP. What a move.
pita.
This is the way
We
these
got to
trades
get
are
it.
supposed to work.
Yeah, we got to get Paris to record that because the way he says it and the inflection is
Yeah.
it's hard to match.
Oh, crap. I better get out of this trade. Okay.
All right. Here's the bell. So who we got? We got
Crap.
Intel.
probably Intel's first. Let's go to Intel and see
Intel's
how
first.
that's reacting here this morning. All right. So let's go.
Mm.
See this afternoon, excuse me. See how this gets going here, guys. Over on YouTube, if you haven't done so already, hit that thumbs up. Really appreciate it as we do these live segments. We'll be doing a lot more of these going forward for major earnings. We'll try to at least do 1 or 2 a week. But yeah, hit that thumbs up and subscribe if it's your first time here. We really appreciate it. All right, Peter, let us know.
Yes.
Cut us off when you have those numbers, and we'll see where we go from there.
I mean, yeah, I'll do my best to get them as quickly as possible.
Yep.
I don't see any reaction from Intel yet, really. A little bit of volume at the close, but that's not uncommon. No real big movement yet.
I do see. Okay, yeah. Now here we go. There it is. Intel doing some stuff, dropping at the moment. Seems.
Yeah, drop on Intel.
That was a quick pop followed by an immediate drop here below the previous day close. Let's see where the continuation goes. The continuation goes here. Back up.
It's jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
It's like a Mexican jumping bean.
Let's see here. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So just jumping.
Yeah, that's not really
green to
tradable. I mean,
red to green.
you're gambling at this point if you're getting into something like this. Be very, very
Yeah.
careful.
Mhm.
Gary, you said something?
I was mostly saying we're looking for about $2 on it. This candle's not wide
All
enough
right.
yet, but
Intel, basically, they beat on revenue. I'm a little surprised on this. I'm always surprised. Jared knows that. Sales were at 14.3 billion versus a 13.8 billion estimate, and earnings per share, they beat by a penny. Expected to deliver 12 cents. They delivered 13. Probably more importantly is their guidance, though, where their guidance, though, the analyst expectations were looking for about $12.9 billion for the first quarter of 2025. And the company's only come in and said they're expecting between 11.7 and 12.7. So even the high end is well below the analyst expectations. And the low end, of course, is a whole $1 billion off of that. So earnings, they expect to be break even on the next quarter versus analysts looking for 9 cents profit. So well off analyst expectations on the forward looking guidance, which probably accounts for this move downwards. There you go.
Yeah. Still well within that expected range, Jared, right? We're still not seeing a big move out of it just yet. So we'll see if that changes. Peter, I do see Visa moving around a little bit. So if we have those, we can switch to those as well. But I do see some stuff happening there.
Yeah, no, Visa's not supposed to come out for another couple minutes. 4:05 is the targeted release time for Visa's earnings. I don't see anything yet, but
Okay, so just kind of waiting for that volume to come in here on Visa. Let's see it back to Intel. Let's see if we get any kind of direction. Right now, we're just kind of stuck here, slightly above the previous day close, not doing a whole lot. And this company, man, overall, it's just they did not take advantage of this whole AI thing. They if you look at this daily, it's a disaster. Well, this weekly actually. It's a disaster. Like they come on. This is your area. You have to do well during the AI boom or bubble or whatever you want to call it. And their charts looks like it's upside down here. So that's not good compared to everybody else.
yeah. And we have to keep in mind MasterCard, whose earnings came out earlier this week. They had very positive results, so I'm sure the expectation is for Visa to match or better that. But again, usually credit card companies do. They're pretty cautious, and they've got a good idea what their pipeline looks like. They know how much debt we all hold. It's not much of a surprise for them.
They don't lose. They don't lose.
They can calculate. They can calculate how much they're owed pretty easily.
Yeah.
I know they got other things, but most of what they make is off of both us and I love Visa. You know, the credit card companies, they've got a great model, don't they? They get to charge both ends. They charge charge the vendors for even having the machine. They charge them a transaction fee then for actually using the machine, and then they charge us interest for lending us cash every month. So it's it's a win-win-win.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, it's a good business model.
It is. God, clearly, because I mean, Visa, MasterCard have been, I think they've had straight profitable quarters for, God, I don't know how many decades now. Like, there's no downside to that business, really.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Visa's numbers should be out by now. I don't see them yet.
Yep, have it up here. There's no action to it at the moment.
No, and like I said, Visa, usually very, very low volume is my expectation. We may not get much of a reaction at all. It is a NYSE traded stock that does have an impact, again, which exchange you trade on. The New York Stock Exchange doesn't typically get as much after hours volume as does stocks traded on the NASDAQ, so we have to keep that in mind.
Some comments here over on YouTube. Sad Intel stopped innovating and they missed the entire AI. Yeah, they did, man. They missed the boat. There's no question about it. And we've seen so many companies do that over time. Look at BlackBerry. Like BlackBerry was the thing, and they missed the applications boom there, and touchscreen, right? thought people were going to have keyboards forever on their phones. I don't think so. There's
You know
so many
what?
companies that did that, man. Blockbuster, another one, didn't innovate.
Yeah.
They thought we were going to
You
be
know that
in there every Friday, Peter, looking for against the wall, looking for the new releases, and no way, man.
You know what? And it's easy to do that. I have to admit, I was working in IT at the time, and I was convinced I would never have a phone without a keyboard. I tried a touch screen, and I'm like, I can't do it. My fingers are too fat. It's not going to work. I don't like it. I like the tactile feel of the keyboard, and I said, never going to happen. Well, was I ever wrong, right? Because here I am with a phone like everybody, where I'm using a soft touch, screen-based keypad. And frankly, on the back end, as an IT guy, I'm like, BlackBerry had security that was far and above anybody else's security. There's no way we'd go to an open model, less secure, like what Apple or the Android phones were offering at the time, especially Android, right? I mean, some open source code on there. There's no way I would let that in my IT department. Once again, completely wrong, right? I mean, basically the tact was different than what BlackBerry was offering, where you would go to where the app then provided the security, not the device. And it's fascinating to me. Like, I always keep those stories in mind, because it's important when we look at trends in markets and industry trends. I mean, right now, this week, in fact, I find it very relevant with the whole AI stuff, right? Don't assume that AI is going to work the way it works today. The DeepSeek model, I mean, whether it's the long-term model or not, innovators like this come along and radically change people's perception of the market very quickly. And, who knows what AI is going to look like, 2 years from now, let alone 2 months from now. So,
Yeah, agreed. I see Visa's numbers seem to be
Visa.
out here. We're not getting a
Sorry,
big
yeah,
reaction,
Visa's.
but yeah, they're out.
Sorry, Visa's data is out. Earnings, they actually beat their numbers on sales. So 9.5 billion in revenue versus an estimated 9.3, and earnings per share once again better than estimate, $2.75 versus a 2.66 consensus view. They also gave their payment volume up 9%, cross-border volume up 16%, and transactions up 11%. So all in all, a beautiful, good news story for Visa. We're seeing a little bit of a pop now as that news is out. Here we go. Now making a $4 move.
Yeah, looking for about 350 to 352 for Visa's expected move. So this is already looking pretty good to the upside.
Yeah, they're just touching 350 now. Well, not quite, but 349.99 is the highest print price.
I was actually looking at Intel too, starting to rally a little bit after the small reversal near 20. So so far, mostly bullish movement on these names.
A little surprising to me with Intel and their negative view on their forecast, but there could be more to the story. There often is, and obviously as the press conference happens, the color commentary, which you don't always see immediately come out in the news, is going to affect perceptions as well.
Yeah. Let's see
You got to
here.
know that
Again,
they've had
I won't be trading during this time, but Brian, did you get any trades on anything yet? I know this is kind of where you find some opportunities in earnings, but not sure if you're in anything.
Yeah, no, Intel was just way too jumpy, and Visa's. I've been looking at a few other things here. Visa jumped up, and now it's again the spread on Visa is $1.50. So
Yeah.
the volume on Visa is almost non-existent. So it's just not a stock that trades well after earnings. So kind of interested in seeing what Apple does. Keep watching it on Bookmap, and we're just waiting for 4:30, which is when they are supposed to report here. So
Yeah, that'll be the big one for today. Visa maybe tomorrow. I mean, I don't really watch Visa, but maybe tomorrow when the market is actually open, we can get some good movement out of it. Again, Peter, I can't remember how Visa trades when the market opens. It's not a stock that we watch often. It could be like a Mastercard type trade, so I'm not sure. Although Mastercard MA did move today, right? So you did get a really decent move out of MA today. So if Mastercard does anything similar like that, sorry, Visa, that could be pretty nice. Peter, you're on mute. You're on mute.
I'm
You're
on
on
mute.
mute.
No wonder you can't hear
There
me.
you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
It can be difficult to trade, in my opinion, right? The spread can be high at times. It doesn't move with a lot of consistent volume. So, there's opportunity. If ever it's going to be in play, it'll be probably tomorrow, but we'll have to see. I mean, there's going to be some other good targets, of course, with Apple and Intel and others on the move. Plus, don't forget, we've got more earnings tomorrow morning that we'll be watching as well. So we'll see what happens. I wanted to address a question from one of our viewers out there who was asking about the 1 to 10 trade I was talking about. Like, I really can't describe it here, but it's a trade that happens specifically 10 minutes to the close every single day. I've got criteria around it. If you want the details, we actually have some short videos that are posted in our education center at variabletraders.com. So if you haven't gone to visit us there, you might want to check that out. We have a lot of our strategies, our member strategies there. I've got a few, including that and what I call my mountain pass, that are all sort of give you the outline of what we trade and how we trade it. And it's well worth checking it out so that you can get an idea of how those work. Not a trade for everybody, and it doesn't always work. Today just happened to be a good day for it.
Yep. And we got tons of these. We got 21 strategies. Here's the one that Peter's talking about. You can get access to this for $1. So it's basically free. You pay $1. We just want to keep the bots out. You come in here, you can look at that video and any other strategies that you like on how to take these trades here. So take advantage, check it out, and see if you can get any value out of it. All right, let's check out some of the earnings we have released here. We have Intel. Intel again. Still nowhere near its expected move. Jerry, you're talking about $2 move on this one.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that one's definitely a slower one. There's a lot of limit orders over the after hours book, so it's probably just a matter of needing enough volume to fill all this inventory. Unlike Visa, which is obviously moving a little faster but has a very thin book. So Visa's actually hitting its expected move right about now. So I've got the line drawn somewhere around 352, and as long as the candle touches it, the fence works. So the dog
Do
has
you have
touched the fence.
do you have a name for that line? I know sometimes you name them.
Well, well, it's a fence, right? So if the upper part of the fence, that's the north fence, and then the south fence is the other side. So the dog has
How do we
ran
call
to
it
the north fence.
We'll call it the credit fence.
Would that apply to both
Yeah,
sides of
yeah.
the fence?
Uh, yeah. How about
To
the
a
and then
debit
it'll be
fence.
like the bad credit fence. I don't know. I'll have to work on that one.
Yeah, we might have to
That
put
one
that
has
one
to be
through the
ironed
ringer.
out. Yeah.
We'll workshop that.
Yeah, man. Visa is moving up 4.5, but again, just Brian, you mentioned this. The spread is at times way too heavy. Not a whole lot of volume.
Yeah.
You can get caught so bad in this.
Yeah.
You don't want to play around with this one.
Look at the minute
And
by
again,
minute volume. We're varying between 5 and 20,000 shares a minute, which is very low. So picture yourself trying to get a
Yeah.
trade. If like there's not that many buyers and sellers if you're only trading 5,000 shares every minute. So
That I was just going to point that out. The volume is very light on Visa, so not a lot of after hours action, despite this move up.
yeah. As opposed to, we're not seeing a lot of
We're-
movement on Intel, but at least it's trading. It's trading on average here about 280,000 shares a minute. So much different than
Yeah.
5.
Yep.
So
Now,
if
Apple, when it comes
just
out,
while
we
we're-
should expect, bigger volumes, more activity for sure.
Go ahead,
yeah,
Brian.
while
You were
we're
saying
waiting,
something?
another trade I've been sort of eyeing, and I just took a position on swing trade is Kinder Morgan, KMI. So really had some earnings. It had earnings last week. I actually traded this um, over the last couple of weeks. Got out of it just before earnings because I don't like to hold swing trades through earnings. So glad I did because it really dropped. But it looks like it's found a level, and maybe it did kind of bounce back today. So taking a taking another position in KMI for a swing trade.
Nice.
So just while we wait for the Apple numbers to come out.
Yeah, that's the big one. So 4:30, we'll get Apple here. Right now, Apple not really. Well, it did drop right before the close. Got a little bit of a drop there. 237, 237.21 was the low here into the market close, and then we're just kind of back up a little bit right now. So we'll see. Could be very interesting, and the guidance on this is going to be a whole lot of fun as well. So we'll see where it goes. Let's see. Hearing big, yeah, if you're hearing a big echo, if you're on YouTube and you're hearing a big echo, you might have the chat room open. So you probably remember you have access to the chat room. We just turned on the sound there because I thought someone was streaming to the sound. Someone was streaming in the chat room already, but they're not. So I came on and I put the sound on. So mute the chat room if you're hearing an echo. It's most likely on that end.
Yeah,
Carlos, I'm just looking at some of our little tags there. We still have our deal on for $1 access to the chat room if anybody's interested. That gives you access to a bunch of our strategies, doesn't it? Can you get access to our strategy summaries through that?
Yes, you can. So for YouTube, you got a link you can get access to the strategies I just mentioned. The one I just showed you earlier, those 31 strategies, you can get access to those. Again, short videos explain the strategy. If you like them and want to know more about it, then you can upgrade your membership. I always tell people, man, just go for the $99 for the month. Just go for the big one. Get access to everything, right? You don't test drive a car in like 5 minutes and know if you're gonna love the car. Go rent the car. Like if you really love this car, go rent it, drive it for like a week, take it to the store, go do errands, and then oh, you know what? I like the car. You buy it, right? But you take a ride for 2 minutes with someone. What are you doing? The car's new. Yeah. Are you kicking the tires to see if the car works? The car's brand new. You're not gonna have a problem. So, yeah.
It's sort of like opening the hood and say, "Yep, there's an engine there."
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just mentioned it because if someone wanted access to that 1 to 10 strategy or any of the other many strategies that we trade, that would be a way to get at it. So.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's interesting. NVIDIA, after that big surge into the close, is back flat on the day. It's going to be interesting to see how NVIDIA trades tomorrow, just because it looks like it might be putting in a bottom here. A couple of days where it tested sort of that 116, 118 level. And this was a kind of a nice reversing doji candle today on the daily. See if NVIDIA can muster a rally. Last trading day of the week. Looks like sort of 130 is the resistance now.
Yeah, I'm looking at it's funny what you mentioned there on NVIDIA, because man, that the range on NVIDIA over the last 4 days was the high towards that 1 at 28, and the low, the highest low, right? It's lower than that, but the highest low is 118. So you got a $10 plus move over the last couple of days, not including the gap down, of course. So it's been wild, this one. And we'll see. We'll get more information. Someone shared I'm going to share this, a really funny a meme here of DeepSeek. And where is it? I got to look for this. It's a picture. I'll find it and I'll share it here. So it was the funniest thing I saw this morning. I think it was by our good buddy Avio. Let me see if I could put this to you guys right over here. Let's get the screen.
Yeah, I don't know how much the Apple effect is going to help NVIDIA to get a positive to the upside.
This is what
Apple's kind of its own beast.
of DeepSeek, right? You got the AI, and then they're just copying it off, and that's kind of what they were explaining. They just took everything from AI. So this is what Microsoft is looking into them. So
That's a
it is,
nice,
yeah,
that's a nice gross picture to help explain it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can't you can't unsee that.
I know. Tell me about it. You were saying, Brian?
Well, I was just saying it's going to be. I don't believe that we're going to get much of an effect on it if depending on what Apple does on Nvidia. Apple's got its own chips. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I think it's going to be more an issue of what their sales look like. A lot of analysts have kind of been in over the last week or two downgrading Apple. It's gotten a number of downgrades, and so we'll see how that plays out if if these analysts happen to be correct. But they're all suggesting that maybe sales aren't going to be as great as people are hoping or anticipating. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
We'll
know
see. But
Jared likes to look at these prior moves. It looks like did Jared talk about the prior moves on Apple during earnings?
we got Jared back.
Let's see. Yeah, what was the question?
Well, I was just asking if you'd looked at the prior earnings report and how Apple moved after the earnings.
I didn't look into Apple as heavily as I did Microsoft, but at a
I know
glance,
you were looking. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if we're just talking about I would say like the post-market action, the worst earnings drop we saw was 2 quarters ago, and that was basically back in August when theoretically the whole market was kind of volatile at that time. So it's hard to tell if that was earnings or the
Yeah.
Japanese yen carry trade. But the earnings before wasn't that bad. Prices did drop. So
Hmm.
another thing to consider when trading earnings is whether or not the stock is up relative to the previous quarter. And at a
Right.
glance, Apple is not up that much. It was, but it lost a lot of that ground. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the expected move puts Apple back to the previous quarter's prices. So if it
Okay.
drops 230 to 228 is kind of like previous quarter, 250 is flat on the year, but a big recovery of the most recent drop. So
Right.
yeah, not a lot of technical edge, unfortunately, on that one.
Hmm. And you were saying, what were you saying for an expected move? Just mention that again.
Plus or minus 10 for Apple, so $10 a share.
Okay. So 240 to 220. Oh no,
Uh,
250 sort of 248 to 228.
exactly. Yeah, I'm basically looking to
Yeah.
hit year to date open or about 228, which would be last quarter's prices. So
Right. Right.
Apple needs to show up or shut up at this point.
Yeah. I think in terms of other reaction to other tech stocks, I mean, if Apple really, does poorly or really well one way or another, it could affect the entire tech sector a little bit.
Hmm.
I mean, you might see a
Yeah,
pop on everything just as a sort of knee jerk reaction, but
I tend to
um,
agree, but we didn't see as much volatility with Microsoft dropping last night. So,
that's true. Yeah,
you know, the
that's true.
the the price volatility isn't as, I guess, like the arbitrage, but behind the trade isn't as heavy as it used to be. There were a lot
Yes.
of cases where a big tech stock would drop or rally, and then the whole index would get like these huge boosts in price. Um, that didn't appear to happen much last night, so kind of interesting how
Hmm.
that's changed.
Hmm.
Because I mean, if we consider Microsoft being down pretty big today, Meta was kind of flat, maybe up a little, and then Tesla recovered. I guess it was up on the session. It was strange to see that the Nasdaq was kind of like holding itself together with Microsoft being down so much.
Right.
So the money is obviously flowing somewhere. We just have to figure out what the next big move is.
Yeah. I'm
Right.
trying to figure out where all the Amazon money's going on their deliveries. They cut 50 cent of UPS deliveries. Where's the rest of that money? Where's all that shipments going, right? We need to know that so we can start looking into investing there. Yeah, so that
Mhm.
UPS actually ended the day down 14%. Again, just massive, massive. So
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big drop for UPS, not only price, but about a three times expected move. So they only expected about $8 and it was down almost 20 at its worst. So pretty large breach of the option implied volatility.
yeah. All right, let's take a look at some comments, guys, as we wait for Apple should be out in about 2 minutes. So, but let's take a look at some questions here.
Yeah, we've got,
Uh,
yeah, we're getting close here.
yeah, we'll be ready. Jared, do you have those numbers? Can you have them handy to read them out? Let's see
Which
the
which
Apple
numbers are we
numbers.
looking for?
Apple when they come out should come out in like 2 minutes or so.
Yeah,
Um,
I can get that on hand.
awesome. Is Intel a good candidate for a swing trade? We don't know, man. Who knows? I don't know. I don't like this stock for a swing trade. And me personally, again, don't take my advice. I'm not an analyst at all. If I was an analyst, it'd be great because I could be wrong and not get any fault. But no, I don't like this, man. This stock is struggling. They look at their chart. They have not figured something out. There'll be a great swing trade if they can come out with some kind of revamp to shake things up and get into the AI game, but they have not been able to do that. It's scary. They probably should get bought out. Like AMD or Nvidia should buy these guys out. I mean, I don't know. It just doesn't look good. But let's
I
talk to
think
the swing. Let's talk
if
to the
you're,
swing trade master, Brian.
yeah, if you're looking for a swing trade on this, just quickly, I mean, one night or $19 is your sort of stop out level. So if, I'd let this settle out a bit, see where because usually you like to do a 2 or 3 day wait after earnings to before you take a position. But I mean, if it gets back down close to 19, it could be a swing trade because you can use that level as a stop, so your risk to reward is pretty decent. But I like to, I like a stock like KMI. You get a really deep pullback and then play the bounce. And those are some of the best setups for swing trades. So, all right,
All
we
right,
got
guys.
10 seconds,
10 seconds away
I
from
do have a
Apple
swing trade.
earnings. Mm-hmm. You
Yeah,
do have a
I do
swing
have a
trade?
swing trade book on Amazon if you want to check it out. So here we go. Let's see what happens with Apple. Here we go, getting a pop
All
here.
right, there it is.
They've got some orders up at 245
Let's
and
see.
some orders stacked up higher, 246, 247.50. Okay, so numbers are out. They appear to be better than what the street had expected.
Wait, Jared. I think you're on mute, but
Yeah, perfect.
there we go. Got you now. Go ahead.
That was quite the pullback.
Yeah, so Q1 2025 GAAP EPS 240, it beats the 236 estimate. Sales under 24.3 billion, beating 124.13 billion, so not a huge beat there. iPhone sales 69.13 billion, which I believe is higher than estimates, but I'm confirming that in just a moment. Looks like
Yeah.
they beat on most metrics here.
Still a big order sitting at 245. Ooh, it just wow, huge pop and now a reversal.
Yeah, it looks like the
See if
iPhone
it see
sales actually missed estimates. So Everything else was a
which
beat,
was
but the iPhone sales were down as far as estimates are
which was
concerned.
something that the analysts were concerned about for sure. That was one of the things they kind of cited. There is an order at 230. I don't think it's going to get there, but popping back up. Yeah, quite the range here.
Mhm.
Oh, we're back up. This is man, wild. I like this one.
And
Let's
it's
see.
just this is the kind of maybe this is the kind of stock you might have wanted to sell some upside calls and sell some downside puts for and hope that there isn't a big reaction one way or another
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Jared,
to,
just
to
remind
like
us
the
what
premium.
is the expected moves on these? I know you mentioned it earlier, but remind anyone that's just joining us here over on YouTube and in chat.
Perfect. Yeah. So we're looking for about plus or minus 10 for Apple. Obviously Visa, if you look at my screen here, we hit the plus or minus 10 to the upside. And that was obviously a little bit of a lower volatility read for a stock of that magnitude. Intel, we're expecting two. I mean, it's moving, but hasn't really gone in either direction clearly. And then, of course, if Apple can maybe pick a direction, maybe we can get these 230s or 250s to hit. But as Brian's mentioning, there's kind of a lack of directionality, and he's mentioning some 230 orders. They are selling it. So, ye of little faith, let's see if we can move this thing down. But obviously we need clarity on the price action, and these
Yeah,
reaction
Yeah.
candles don't
right
offer a
now,
lot of clarity.
no. We had just in terms of reaction of other stocks, I mean, Nvidia has not moved very much at all. Neither has Microsoft or Tesla. So Meta, all the mag stocks are just pretty much flat.
Hmm.
No reaction. SPY and the Qs kind of did a spike up and down with the price action on Apple, but that's not surprising because the SPY is Apple is in the SPY and the Qs.
All right, it's trying here. It's trying to find direction, but still
Yeah,
pretty
this
close to that previous day
236.
close. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Right
Yeah, this
now it's
236 level.
right now it's kind of presenting that upside move as a spike, which is typically a pretty big signal to reverse. So, if we can get a breakdown going, I think 230 would be conservative for a target, because we're kind of trying to
There's an
move
order.
away from an area right now.
Yeah, there's an order that has come in at 240. Fairly large order sitting at 240 right now.
Hmm.
So we may gravitate to there.
If a stock keeps bouncing around, does it ever move at all? Is the question. It's very
Yeah,
philosophical right now.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, this might have to wait until the
lots of
call to get some direction. Right now, really just stuck here. So really tough trade for if you're trading earnings. This is a hard one. Um, let's
yeah,
see if get something out of it. But you know what? No, if you don't get it today, tomorrow morning, this is gonna be in play. We're gonna have lots of fun with
yeah.
this. So don't force it if you don't see what you like right now. But tomorrow should be great here.
What's really interesting is as far as like reactions are concerned, and this is something
Mhm.
that Microsoft did yesterday. Visa ran to that upper expected move, and as far as price is concerned, immediately turned back around. So if there was more volume on Visa, that would be a great sort of like rejection point to push it back inside. And depending on your style, that's actually one of the better plays to just kind of know where your stop is once you get to the expected move boundary, the credit fence, as Peter called it.
The credit fence. Well, that name is on the fence. We gotta figure that out. It's kind of
Yeah,
not clear.
not my favorite, but
Yeah,
I
we
like
gotta
I
think
like
about that.
dog and fence. It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
real simple.
Uh, well, you came out with the King of All Levels, right? Previous day close, King of All Levels. That's a great name. We love that name. I use that in all my
Yeah,
webinars. The King of All Levels, previous day
yeah.
close. So I like
Yeah.
that. and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so true, post
Yeah,
true.
I like that one. Yeah, you've got to have that on your chart,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
Tesla. The number of
unless you're
times
Avi.
Tesla,
Avi
unless
takes
you're
everything
Robbie.
off his charts. It barely has the price
Yeah.
section.
Well, you look at Tesla, how often it'll go to that level and react, one way or another. It'll either reject if it's coming up from underneath, or it'll bounce when it's coming down.
Hmm. Yeah,
The it,
it's usually a good magnet price. Anytime you're moving already and you have that price as kind of your target, it's surprising how often price will meet it first. And then if something's gonna change, it'll happen around there. But we're just looking to kind of get it there first, especially if we're gapped up or gapped down and price is moving back up or back down.
All right, so we look at Apple, pick a direction. Let's take 5 minutes to get any questions you guys might have over in the YouTube chat. Hi, guys, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so already. Let's see some questions here. Can you please? Oh, Jared, I meant to ask you this earlier. What website did you use to get your data? Are you using the Squawk on our chat?
Yeah, so I went ahead and pulled up the Benzinga news. I had this walk on during the Apple's announcement. A lot of those estimates came out, or the sales numbers, and the only thing I didn't have was whether or not some of those sales numbers were beats or not. So I do have to thank one of our members in the chat room, Yatin, kind of posting a big summary to read off of. So really just trying to see if all of their sales numbers were beats or misses. And as I mentioned, everything looked to be a slight beat. We're talking relative percentages compared to the Wall Street estimates. The iPhone sales was a miss, and it looks like China sales below consensus with some concerns about the U.S. tariff risk that are starting to appear. So certainly some discussion with regards to new administration and how that's going to play out.
Yeah, yeah.
hmm,
And guys, and you can actually get access to this with your membership at Bearable Traders. I'll show you quickly here. You can get, where's the screen? Here we go. So right over here, here's our chat room, and we got Brian is streaming his book map here. You can see what he's looking at Apple, so you get access to that. And I'm streaming this as well. You see my name here. You can switch back and forth. And then when you click on here, you get access to this beautiful, nice and clean alerts page, which gives you everything you need. You can search. So again, it's part of your membership. If you want access to that, you can get that there. All right, let's see what the questions are on here. NVIDIA, is it possible for a swing trade? Brian, what's your thoughts on NVIDIA for a possible swing trade?
yeah. I mean, I talked about that already. I mean, it kind of looks like it's trying to hold a level here. The daily chart. If you look at, as Apple starts to sink here, they just couldn't push it up. So it looks like the shorts are taking control, or the sellers. But if you look at Nvidia on a daily basis, it really is trying to hold sort of this 118 level, 119. So I mean, it did throw a nice candle today in terms of selling off and then coming right back up to where it opened. So I don't know. It's definitely got some resistance here around 129, but we could see a move back up to that level
Yeah, I'm
on
watching Apple
Nvidia.
here. It's kind of skirting the
Yeah, it's
235, and
yeah,
they're
it's
starting to
getting
fill those
235.
orders. Yeah,
Yep.
so we're
So
coming down a little bit.
I'm on the fence on Nvidia as far as the swing trade goes.
Yep, yep.
Let's see.
But definitely, yeah, if it pulled back again tomorrow to sort of 119 area, might be a good area to get long, and then sort of use 118 as a stop.
I see Apple made a new after-hours low, bouncing back here a little bit. So we are getting some movement towards the downside now. So this could get rather interesting here. What's the low of the day today? We're well past that, I think, right? Oh,
Yeah.
no, we are. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
low
Pivot
Low of the
level,
day was kind of
a pivot
mid-range
level
on
at
the.
235.
Yeah, there's some technical levels that Apple was building up past couple days, so 235 would be our support. Um,
Yeah,
I'm
and
hoping
that's
one of
kind of
these
where
expected
we've
moves
bounced.
gets hit, but these stocks aren't that volatile these
Right?
days.
Yeah,
We don't have
that
haymakers
is
like we
kind of
used
where
to.
we've bounced. Yeah, we bounced at that 235 twice now, sort of 235 area. But there are some orders building to the downside here. 234, 233. Not heavy orders, but they're there.
Alex over on YouTube, the Apple report. Yes, they did. So it looks like Jared, we kind of went over. They being a lot of things. The iPhone sales though, and they got the breakdown now between Europe, China. Obviously was low. We knew that because they lost some grounds there. But then in Europe, US was also down, not by a lot, slightly. Like net sales in US 52.64 billion. Actually, that was up from 50 billion, so up in the US. Europe is also up, right? 33 from 30 billion. But then in China, they're down 2 billion. So I don't know why that doesn't sound so bad. I mean,
I mean,
so I
I
don't
think
know.
I think valuations are kind of important in this day and age because we're looking at a relatively, I would say, like growth oriented market, and any slowdown that's spotted, if these companies' valuations are just a little too rich, it's a great opportunity to
Yeah,
kind of drop the price down a bit and maybe put that
yeah,
money elsewhere. So I'm
Yep.
not saying
yeah.
that that's
The
a driver
valuation.
of downside, but it's certainly something the marketplace is looking at where to find growth.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah, and general consensus is this 2025 is not going to be as easy a moneymaker as 2024 was. Just to get to Jared's point is all the valuations on all these stocks have really come up a lot, and now the bar is high for them to get pushed higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be more of a stock picker's market.
Yeah. One
But
question
it
here from
doesn't mean
YouTube
there's
for you, Brian, is ask Brian, why do big orders matter? Is it because it's going to pull the price towards it?
Yeah, typically what we see in both after hours and especially during the market, you tend to see these large institutions put these big orders in, and the price tends to gravitate to those orders. And you see that time, day after day after day on Bookmap, which gives you a really nice sort of pictorial view of where the orders are, and you can just see every day, large orders sitting to the upside, for example, and just the price just move up to those orders, and likewise to the downside.
Mm,
So it's a little bit counterintuitive if you're not used to using the level two. You would think that if someone's putting a large order above the price, you would think, wow, there's a big seller there. There's no way it's going to get there, but it's actually almost the opposite. So and generally speaking, it's not a nothing, no indicator is 100%. So you can't just put all your eggs in the basket and think that the stock's going to go to the large order where the large order is. But I would say 80% of the time it's usually a pretty good indicator.
mm. Yeah, we use
So
that
right now we've
information
got
a
a large
lot
order.
to. Yeah,
Yeah,
we use that
right
information a
now we've got a
lot
large one.
intraday to really figure out where the stock might be heading in the short term. And then if that price range were to change the direction of the stock, we could actually use that order filling to basically put our stop loss. So once the orders are filled, if it's starting to change direction, oftentimes we can join or reject that particular order, but it has to fill first.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So right now we're kind of heading to 240. There's some orders right at 240 on Apple, but they've thrown up some orders right in front of it around 238.50. So we'll see if Apple can get through this sort of bunch of orders and maybe keep moving up here. Again, a little less predictable after hours because I'm guessing the volume on Apple is slowly starting to drop off here as sort of the excitement wanes,
Yeah,
and we're
there's
seeing the volume drop.
almost no trading volume except for these limit order fills. So there's really no like
Yes.
market participation, but there's, inventory at what appears to be the high and low of the trading range that we're already in. So this
Yeah.
is not as exciting as, let's say, some quick movement to one of the boundaries. So not quite the Microsoft that we saw yesterday, not quite a Visa. Definitely not a Tesla. Tesla was quite a wild ride in both directions, but
That
you
that
know,
was
Yeah.
fun. Yeah.
Uh,
I think
What
you did mention this
crazy.
earlier, Jared. It's about it being at 4:30 opposed to 4:05, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. I think that would be much more better as far as action and volume. But
mhm.
we'll see. But nevertheless, guys, we'll be watching this again tomorrow. We're gonna start wrapping it up here. Jared, before we leave, any final thoughts
Sure.
here into tomorrow?
I think with what we saw right into the close, we definitely want to watch our overhead on the overall market. There's definitely still some selling going on near the FOMC levels, so kind of keep your risk in check as we approach those prices, because as of now, we still have resistance in this market. We're not quite on the all-time high breakouts just yet.
All right, awesome. And then Brian, from your side, any thoughts before we hop off here?
Yeah, we do have some very sort of important economic data coming out Friday morning for the market open at 8:30. It's the purchasing consumer expenditures, PCE. This is the favored um, Fed inflation gauge. So I get everybody's obviously going to be focused on that, especially given Powell's comments on Wednesday that inflation's still too high. So people will be looking for more progress on the inflation fight. So I think that those numbers could influence how, at the very least, how we open tomorrow. So yeah, so just be aware that that's going to come out at 8:30 tomorrow morning
All
before
right,
the market
awesome.
opens.
Awesome, guys. All right, everyone on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us. Hit that thumbs up. If you want to know more, Brian, you do this great thing, and I don't want to extend this too long, but you do this alerts, this video every Sunday. I think Sunday, sometimes Monday, Tuesday, like the future outlook. So I just put in the link to that, guys. If you go to that link and you scroll all the way to the bottom, you're going to see Swing Trading by Brian. Swing Trading newsletter, really good stuff. He does this video and newsletter, very clean. It's like, I love the newsletter. It's very clean, very straightforward, not a whole lot of stuff on there. So check that out if you're interested in swing trading. There's more stuff on there, and you also got a copy to Brian's book if you want to learn more about trading, swing trading. So, all right, guys, take care. Have a great evening. Jared, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick comment. Yeah, I try to get those out on Saturday. So last week I was away on the weekend, so I didn't get out till Monday. But generally speaking, usually try to get those out on Saturday so people can digest the information before the market open Monday. So anyway, that's it.
I find them very helpful, my friend. That's why I noticed that it didn't happen the weekend. I'm like, oh, it came out a little later, but I watch them every week. They prepare me for the weekend. They're awesome, man. So Brian,
Great.
Jared, thank you so much. Peter as well. He was on earlier. Guys, have a great evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Pre-market prep, engineering the markets at 8. Have a good one.
Well, not on Friday, but have a good afternoon.
You know what,
Yeah, have a good
Jared? That's how I know that it's Friday, when I come on and you're not on.
That's right.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow
Cheers,
morning.
everybody.
Cheers.
Later, everybody.